Welcome to the Centering, everyone. This is episode 227 coming to you live and or pre-recorded. On this episode, the best episode ever, we have Yikes of the Week because it is Monday, so everyone's favorite segment is here. Also, this is a very anticipated episode because we go through our good, the bad, the ugly, and tell you everything you'll need to know about Valorant and our first impressions, of course, with the somewhat beta weekend, whatever you want to call that thing that they did on Twitch. So we talk about that. But first, thank you to Alt for sponsoring the show. Alt is our favorite brand of gaming esports clothing, and it should be yours as well. If you go to altesports.com, you can go ahead and pre-order our own lineup with them, the 101 Burglars lineup. Look fresh. The t-shirt and onesies, I believe, are sold out, but you can still get hoodies. And even though, yes, it is becoming summertime in most places of the world, you can never prepare too early for next winter with some fresh threads, as the kids say. So go to altesports.com for that. Also, friendly reminder, they are teaming up with Meta Threads for charity. You can go on the website and also buy little masks, like medical masks, and they look pretty badass in my opinion. $20 a piece, and for every one you buy, they will make 2 to send off to local hospitals in California. And also, 100% of the profit goes to making those products and to the hospitals. So helping out the doctors, the nurses, everyone there, cleanup crew for those who actually really need the support. So all that can be found at Ultimate on Twitter, altesports.com. So thank you again for Alt.
Hey, I'm Simon1G, and you guys are listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
What is up, everybody? Hello, and welcome back to the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Go follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring and our website tcr.gg. That will have all the links to our Discord and everything else there that you'll need to, including YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe to that while you're at it. My name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
The episode we've been waiting for. Finally get to talk about it a little bit more.
A little bit.
I'm pumped, dude.
A little bit.
I'm excited.
Well, I'm curious. There's so many directions that we can take it. So, and I know a lot of listeners have been asking, like, when are you guys talking about Valorant? When are you talking about Valorant? Well, first off, I first needed to learn how to say the name properly. So, we had to wait for that. And also, we were like, you know what? We could go and, like, nitpick and do one at a time with every little news that went for it, but that would have been a beatdown. So, we were like, we'll just wait. They're doing the big reveal on Twitch and closed beta and all that fun stuff. So, let's wait till all the dust settles, and then we'll talk about it. And here we are. So we will talk about it. But again, we have some Yikes of the Week and e-news to get to and all that fun stuff as well. I don't think anything Corona related happened over the last couple of days, has it?
No, it feels like we should say something. Other than both Counter-Strike leagues still going into studios.
Everyone wash your hands. Stay safe. Yep. ESL and Flashpoint still going strong. They're
waiting to see who contracts it first. It's a big push. We're curious to see who wins.
I still don't really know how they're getting away with that, to be honest with you, because I know there are local stores in our areas that, and we live in DFW, Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth area. There are stores, Anuj, and I won't name names, but that who said they were quote unquote essential, but then like the authorities went and shut them down saying no, you're not. Shut this bitch down and go home. So I'm not really sure why, when every other league, hell, even Fox and all these like people have figured out how to do NASCAR remotely, why Flashpoint and ESL are still, it's a weird hill. Poor phrasing on this, but it's a weird hill to die on.
Yeah.
Poor, I
100%.
understand that is poor phrasing on my part, but don't know any other way to say it. So it's just odd. It's an odd one there, ESL and Flashpoint. But I'm glad that you two can finally agree on one thing, and that's to have your crew in studio.
And that's not even the yikes.
No, we haven't even gotten to yikes of the week.
That's a freebie.
And that's just, yeah, that's just on the house. On the house. So yeah, that's, yeah, I don't know. I even saw like Sir Scoot's tweet about it, and he gets like obviously upset about it. So I've seen that their own crew, when I say crew, like the CS crowd that normally is backing them up, is now turning on them, saying like, guys, this is not the time. Not the time or place to be doing this. So we'll see how long that lasts. But we did have Overwatch League that's been back for like, 2 weeks now?
Yep.
So they've figured out how to do everything, even though it sounds like they're always yelling. I don't know what it is on that front, but Overwatch League's back doing it online. We did see, I guess we could throw this in there now. I was going to bring it up in e-news, but I'll bring it up now since we're on Corona Talk. The CDL ran some exhibition matches.
I saw that. I think it was the Royal Ravens were playing when I turned it on earlier today.
Yeah, Royal and the Mutineers, I think, were playing earlier. Just exhibition, so...
Just something at least, though.
Yeah, I guess they just wanted to test out the kinks before...
guys, you're playing too much Warzone. We need to make sure y'all are still in competitive shape and integrity.
No, it's not Warzone they're worried about, sir. It's Valorant. They're like, we don't need you guys quitting for Valorant, so please remember that you are in a league with contract signed, so let's do an exhibition match before we all forget that. Thank you very much. Seemed to work fine. It didn't seem to be... Looked exactly like Overwatch. It didn't seem too much of an issue. I don't know why it took them a month to figure it out how to do it, but hey, I won't tell you how to do your job there, CDL. I won't do that for you. Let's get into some yikes of the week, though, Anuj, because we have a handful of yikes actually to get to. So I'll let you start with one of yours.
Mine takes us back to the world of Overwatch League. This is we actually didn't have this one written down, but we talked about it briefly. For this one, this is going to be for Lastro. He plays for the Los Angeles Valiant. They were taking on the San Francisco Shock in one of their online matches that was going on April 4th. The 19-year-old South Korean, Tim. Man, sometimes they don't say much, but when they have a couple of words, they are very meaningful. And in this case, the player, again, Lastro, popped into chat. It was a streamed match. He had 2 things to say, Tim. And I don't know, if this was just one of those things where he was trying to be funny. I found it kind of amusing. So if that was his plan, to me, it was fine.
Now,
but he wrote 2 things in chat. Go ahead.
No. Say what he said first, and then I will ask my question.
So first message, sex. That's it.
I like
That's
it.
Just threw it out there. Just getting attention, right?
Open for
let me
interpretation.
Hit you. Yeah, could be a number of things, but hey, we wanted to get our attention. It worked. Second thing, big dick. That's it. That sex and then big dick. Obviously, McGravy started spamming him with messages real quick with question marks.
Maybe he listens to TCR and he big dick play. Maybe he was letting them know, guys, you're about to get a big dick play right here.
Super also told him, please don't say that and to stop. Obviously, this player was unaware that chat was visible during the stream, or maybe just didn't know the match was being streamed. But either way, he's been fined by the Overwatch League. This is a yike just because I found it just so funny. I mean, it's just so random, and it's like they don't say much, and it was just like
Then here they go.
we've been to live interviews with several, South Korean Overwatch players, and they're very few words that are generally spoken from them in those interviews, right? Like those interviews are generally focused to comfortable English speakers for the most part. They generally conduct most of the interviews. They have a translator usually with them. We didn't need a translator for this, Tim. It was very clear what he said, and for that
Maybe
reason,
it was lost in
Lastro,
translation. Maybe it means something different in Korea.
very well, yeah. I mean, I looked it up, and sex, could have a number of meanings. Again, if he's soliciting it, if he just had it, if he wants to have it. Big dick, however, that seems to go cross country.
Yeah,
that was the
that's
same meaning.
universal. That
that was the same meaning. So
I
big dick play by Lastro for sure.
Like some people are, I fall on the fence on this one. Like I understand the league has to do something or at least say something. $1,000 to say big dick seems a bit weird. Like that seems like a weird. Like so when I was like little, when like maybe 8th grade, I got written up, Anuj, if you believe it, for telling the bus driver to shut the fuck up. And on the write-up, they wrote out exactly what I said. And I remember
Made it that much better.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like my mom still has it. And I think the talk of it wasn't even the fact that I got written up, the fact that you wrote that on there. Like as a teacher, like you could have just said something like Tim yelled at the bus driver. But here, like you like, so what'd you get fined for? Saying big dick.
I wish he had Randy Moss this, and when they asked how he's going to pay the fine, he should have just said straight cash, homie.
just odd one there, and it's kind of also a shame though. Like I said, on the other side, it's a shame because the players are just trying to have fun, right? Let them say what they want. It wasn't like anything terrible.
Yeah, he definitely thought they couldn't see the chat, and he wrote it as a joke.
That's a big dick. It's a way of life. That's something in life you're going to come across, right? It's not offensive. It's a body part.
I take him off Yikes of the Week. And in fact, I give him a Timmy. That's what he gets for that move right there.
That's right. You know what? Let's make a t-shirt with just his face and big dick at the bottom.
I love it. I love it.
I think that's what we need to do with Alt next. Is just his face with big dick in quotes.
On the back, it says sex.
That will be the next shirt for sure. All right, and let's get into your other Yikes of the Week here, and then I will do mine, which will lead into Valorant.
Yeah, other one here is, I hate to give them like an abbreviation, so I'm just going to say the full name, because the International Esports Federation, Tim, as you obviously know what they do. I mean,
of course,
the IESF. And the Asian Electronic Sports Federation, the AESF, obviously.
Oh, I mean,
for those of you that don't know,
of course,
they have signed a memorandum of understanding with the objective of further promoting esports. It was signed on March 31st. The IESF recognizes and acknowledges the AESF as the sole sports federation in Asia, while AESF now recognizes the IESF as the only international federation of esports, Tim. And you know what? Does this need much more explaining for why this is a yikes? I'm just a little like, I'm confused on what I just told you.
This is awesome. This is awesome. This is literally two made-up companies that have very important sounding names because they threw in federation. Anything sounds more important when you throw federation in it.
That's where we messed up. Like the Center Ring Federation.
Like if we would have called it, like the Esports Federation podcast, it would have sounded way more official.
Yeah.
So these are literally two made-up companies for International Esports Federation and the Asian Electronic Sports Federation. And then all of a sudden decided, hey guys, I'm going to recognize you as official. Well, then I'm going to recognize you as the only official. These are literally two made-up companies.
Believing in one another.
That are pretty much patting each other on the back saying, well, I guess it's official now.
I wonder if there's any cross-pollination between the two. Like, I'm sure they have friends on each side
Oh,
here. Like, it's just such a
yes.
joke that no authentic esports union group, whatever. I mean,
Like ESL or
esports,
DreamHack are not looking at
yeah,
them saying like, "Oh shit, I didn't
these
realize you
are
guys are now." Okay. International Esports Federation. I didn't know you were the official. What is it? How do they word it? The sole esports federation,
the
right?
sole esports federation in Asia, while the
Is the only
Asia
international.
esports
So it's like
federation.
ESL goes, "Oh, I didn't realize you were the only international federation of esports guys." Well, who made you that?
You
Well,
know,
the Asian
if,
Esports
for you
Federation.
guys that are hearing about them for the first time, they've been on Yikes before, mostly when they announced that they were a
For the
thing.
same thing, pretty much.
But they've been on the show before. Go look up the pictures of these individuals. Go look at the people that are involved in this. It is suits that are, I think one of the chairmen looks like he's pushing roughly 70. I don't know
These are
how in
old.
touch with.
These are old businessmen who are looking at an opportunity and trying to get idiots to fall for it. Right? That's really what it is. Because this is what I'd have to imagine when the Olympics first started and like the Olympic Committee like took over the Olympics, and then the Greeks were like, "What the hell just happened? Like, weren't we kind of the Olympics? Weren't the Greeks
Yeah.
kind of running the show?" And then all of a sudden the Olympic Committee came on board and said, "No, no, no. We're the official Olympic Committee now."
We are the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a big joke, dude. I mean, honestly, like they're unrecognized by anybody of importance in the scene. They're
Including us, the most
touting their own
important.
horn over here, and it's just it's interesting to see where they go next with this. Okay, you both recognize each other. You created this company. You've both recognized each other as being the sole federation in their region. Now what? Let's see what you do. Now again, you're right. They might be getting money from like investors that see them and think they have legitimacy behind them. That's probably the worst case scenario here, and there's probably some of that going on. But for the most part, I think anybody in the scene that sees these guys understands that
Well, you know what,
they're a
Inij?
joke.
I'm going to say it right now. I view you as the voice of Indian esports.
And I view this podcast as the #1 esports podcast in the world.
So the voice of Indian esports is now saying that TCR is the #1 esports podcast.
Agree.
You can't get more official than that. You cannot get more official. That's dumb.
It's insane.
It is.
It's insane.
I mean, that is the definition of a circle jerk. Like, really, like, look up circle jerk and you're going to see that article on Esports Insider. My yikes of the week. It's their first appearance, I think. So, everyone, a round of applause for Valorant for being already on yikes of the week. You're not even like a game yet. You're just closed beta. I don't even know if you're coming out. The game could still crash and burn for all I know. But you've already made yikes of the week. Now, let's get it out there. All right. I want to put it out there.
What did they do to you?
Not yet. But everyone's wondering, no, I did not get in the beta. Okay? This has nothing to do with that. Yes, Anuj got in the beta. And some of our listeners, who I'm very happy for, got into the beta. I did not. I sat there for like 7 hours or however long it was, every 30 minutes going by, seeing everyone else get get adopted and taken home with loved ones. And I was left outside in the cold.
From what I was told, Tim, they were trying to get the top 25,000 ranked FPS players in the world into this closed beta. And they said it would have been unfair had they given TCR 2 keys, knowing that we're both clearly in the top 100 most likely.
Yeah.
But they said that it would be a little too obvious to the people out there if somehow both of us managed to be in the closed beta and just dominate it completely.
I think what this is Hastro.
I really think he's sabotaging you.
I think he knows that I'm coming for that roster spot when I do these tryouts, and he knows that. And so he called Riot and said, do not give P-Shroom a code. Like,
did you see his like lower lip quiver a little bit when he was talking about us coming to visit the studio over there?
Dude, it was, I mean,
like the tryout, like we were nervous. I can say he was nervous. Hastro was nervous in that
So
situation.
I think this is all just part of the plan because he knows that I am gunning for that roster spot with Envy. That being said, I think and Anuj can back me up on this. Because before I found out I was not invited to the beta, which I went through like the whole stages of grief, by the way. Like I went to
early.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was like it started at noon our time. By like 2:00, I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
It's not happening.
I don't even care about the game anymore. Valorant, you suck. I don't care. And then I was like, I'm sorry, Val. I didn't mean that. Please, can I get in? Get in? No, screw you. Screw you. And then I was like, you know what? I'm okay. I don't need to be in the beta. And now I'm still just depressed. But you never know. It could happen. It could happen still. So let's not worry about me. Okay? Well, don't make this about me. My point is I did tell Anuj before we found out I was not invited that this was going to be a yikes. So this was not because I didn't get into the beta. But I really do feel like now Valorant is like the most anticipated game, I would say, over the last 4 years. Maybe with Overwatch. But I really don't even remember Overwatch being this hyped up. And yet, when it came down to like crunch time, when it came like the night before, dude, confusion swept the internet on what the hell people were actually supposed to do to get into this beta. Were they just supposed to watch Twitch? Were they supposed to sign up? But then it's, am I need to registering a new Riot account? What's going on? Is it the 7th? Is it the 3rd? Like, I don't know what's happening here because I'm looking at 5 different websites and they all say different things.
And streamers are also a lot. Like I know Jordan had mentioned like a time of like midnight that the event was like going live, and that confused his, 500,000 followers or whatever he has, right?
Yeah. So you had all these influencers who are also part of it, giving information that also wasn't 100% right or wrong. So it was like you kind of had to figure out which one was which. And then I'm pretty sure it was Ziegler.
We'll go Ziegler.
Ziegler, the dev for the game, was on Twitter. And he was also kind of giving up on telling people what to do on Twitter, which drives me nuts. If someone's asking you, hey, what is the correct answer? And you type in, go to the website and look at the details and follow along, it would take you just the same amount of time to tell them the right answer. So that's a grief on my side. But he says, go to the website. And I took a screenshot to show him this. No response, of course. The website says the 7th. Their own website said the 7th. Tune in on Twitch on the 7th to get an invite.
Which is half accurate because you could still do that on the 7th.
Correct.
And I think that was the initial plan. What I think they ended up adding was this streamer event basically and dropping the embargo on the 3rd. And they're like, hey, that's a good way to get people to tune in. Let's give out 25,000, 50,000 keys, whatever it was.
Twitch tweeted out something saying the 7th. And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't think they were realizing why everyone was so confused. I mean, we even had listeners in our Discord, like, what day is it? And I was like, oh, it's tomorrow. No, the website says the 7th. And I was like, hold on, let me text people. And I finally found out. But it's like, yo, bros, don't be telling people, don't act like you're put out because people can't read. When they can read, it's your own website that's wrong.
And there was like scamming going on because people thought it was keys. So people started selling keys and you had fake sellers out there and people got fooled by that. It wasn't like really clear. Again, it's half correct because the 7th is still, I think, the main day where they will give out a ton of keys on the 7th. So again, for those of you that didn't get one on the 3rd, I think a lot more people will get in here this week.
Stay strong, people.
But yeah, it was definitely interesting that seems so disorganized, but I think we're going to give them a pass, Tim. A little bit.
Easy to say when you have access, sir. This is why I'm a man of the people. They said, they actually asked if I wanted in, and I said no. Not until every single one of our listeners is in the closed beta, I will not join.
They asked me the same thing, and I don't know what happened, but I'm playing on the 7th, so I don't know. I don't know what answer I gave him at the time.
It was just there. I told him, please don't. And
I
here
said
we
don't.
are.
I don't know.
Here we
No,
are.
but
All right, so let's actually jump into our Valorant discussion then, Anuj, because there's a lot of things I want to touch to. Now, I will say this to our listeners. We are not going to go hero by hero, ability by ability. If you want that, there's about 1,000 other YouTubers who thought they were really original with the same exact video. So go ahead and do that. Go watch one of them, and you can get it all done in like 15 minutes, and it gets the job done. But what we will go over is our good, the bad, the ugly, and just kind of pick apart what we can expect going forward as far as the esports scene and the competitive scene for Valorant and everything there. Because I will say this. All things are pointing to that it will become a big player on the show.
yeah, for sure.
It doesn't seem like it will be one of these games that we don't follow a whole lot. It looks like a game that interests both of us. It's with Riot, so we know I think they will have the esports scene pretty locked down tight on that sense. So
I just don't think that happens immediately. So when we say it becomes a big player on the show, we want to talk about it from an esports perspective, right? We don't want to just talk about the game
I don't care about patch
as
notes.
like, yeah, like that stuff is not what we want to dive into. So when it becomes a big player on the show, it's kind of the, it's up to them. It's how quickly are they able to put a proper esports scene together, and that is probably going to happen organically to a certain extent, but I would assume 6 months to a year really before there is a true esports scene. What we'll have in the meantime is a bunch of signings, right? We'll have teams being formed,
local tournaments, things like that.
Yeah, we'll have there'll be, I'm sure, some set of tournaments that way.
Half of Counter-Strike and the Contenders League have already announced that their entire life passion has always been to be pro. It's getting a little that's getting a little ridiculous, by the way. All these people, I mean, I get it. That's how you do it. You make a public declaration that you want to go pro in it so teams know that they can ask you to try out or whatever. But
I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is just letting potential buyers, right, know that, hey, oh, this guy's available. If we want to get him now, maybe we get him cheap before.
I just wonder how many of them are going to make it, Like, I feel like a lot of these guys think, oh, I'm just going to move on over because I'm a tier 2 player in this sport, but if I move over here, I might be tier 1.
You know what? Like, realistically, if you're tier 2 or tier 3 in another sport, you're probably going to be tier 2, tier 3 here. Like, it's not easy to be the best at a game, right? It's still less than 0.1% of people that will make it. Now, everybody has to give it a chance, right? I'm not saying don't try. It's just when we say how many are going to make it, like, chances are it's pretty slim because it is not easy to be pro in anything, let alone a game where, shoot, and we're going to talk about it here, might as well just jump into it now, is like on the third, what was there, like over 1 million people tuned in for pre-recorded content to watch for the first time. Granted, it didn't matter whether it was pre-recorded or not because you were watching it as a viewer for the first time. But yeah, people like Summit and these guys, really, really had some crazy stats over the weekend, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I mean, it was literally over 1 million people were tuned in. I think Summit doubled his all-time high viewer count for a streamer like him to do that. That's been in the game as long as he has. That's a man. That's a testament to how good he is, obviously, at what he does, but how popular and how excited people are about this game coming out.
Yeah, because too, I think. I think it was good too, because for a guy like Summit, you could watch him, and the way he was doing it was like pausing the gameplay to explain what was going on and what he liked or didn't like about a particular situation, like the ice chick, right? Like, that's like, oh, okay, this ability here is overpowered. They're gonna have to adjust this or that. So I would suggest, if you wanted like a good visual walkthrough of the game, Summit's early on in his stream, before the Twitch Rival tournament started, is a very good reference point to that. But let's jump into our good, the bad, the ugly, and then we can kind of dissect everything else that we didn't get a chance to go over. Did you want to start with good first? Start on a happy note?
Yeah. I mean, that works. Let's start on a high.
All right. So I think right off the bat, we've already discussed a little bit, but the fact that I think what's amazing is that Riot pretty much is taking all the little pieces from all these other games, and I hate to do it, but we are going to have to always compare this to other games because it's just obvious that that's what they did, right? Like it's not a clone of any one particular game, but clearly influenced by every. So I think they took what works in Overwatch, they took what works in this game or in Counter-Strike and Call of Duty, and then they said, okay, what's missing in those games? What do we need to do to get it going? I mean, right off the bat, the tick rate is, to me, like a huge player, especially because on the other side of that coin, Valve has been telling us for years it's literally impossible to have higher tick rate than what they offer.
Your computers wouldn't be able to. It would hurt too many of our users than help the small few, is what Valve would always throw out there, right? That it's not going to be beneficial to the majority of the player base. Well, guess what? When you have servers located across the world, such as Riot, and you would think Valve has the ability to do this if they're not doing it. Maybe that's their problem, is they're just not putting the focus there. But yeah, the 128 tick rate is a huge win, especially when we're playing COD right now, Tim, at like 12, 10. I mean, it's something low, whatever it is. It's like
it's COD it's unplayable at times.
That's rough. And so, yeah, for sure. Like what you mentioned there is just they've taken a lot of what we have either wanted or asked for or implemented in games that we currently love and enjoy. And they've kind of bundled that all together and tried to present that to us as like, hey, look, this is what we're doing before we even get to the gameplay. These are the things that you're going to get. Hey, Fortnite, you locked people at like a 70 or 60 FOV or whatever it is and didn't give them a slider. Well, we're not going to give you a slider, but your FOV is going to be 103, which is kind of the overall consensus is that is like a very good FOV to go into.
Yeah, I think I play on like 110, so it's like it's not going to be like jarring to switch. That's normal.
And it's funny, I only played it 103 because I heard Shroud say it many years ago that 103 was the number that he liked. I tried
switching to 103 and I was like, I'm not going to fix what ain't broke for me. I'm going to stick with 110.
Yeah.
But yes, I know Shroud plays at 103. I know all of Shroud's settings.
For me, Tim, the good for me after just watching all of the streams was I never really felt the abilities were completely overpowered. And now there are going to be some that I think need some tweaking, and we'll kind of maybe get into those a little bit. But it wasn't as bad as I was, what I thought it was going to be. For example, like Sova has this Hanzo arrow that he kind of shoots out there and it pings the map. Well, I thought it showed initially from watching videos that it just showed everybody. If it hit a spot and it shoots out this kind of sonar-like ping, if you're in that ping, it discovers you, it shows your location. Well, it turns out if you're not in line of sight of that dart, so for example, you see the dart coming and you're hiding behind a box, it doesn't ping your location. Somebody can shoot the dart out before it even goes off again. You don't have to worry about it at all in those situations. I think when you see it working effectively right now, people are unaware of a lot of the nuances in the game.
And that's on that note, I will steal your thunder here because I do think that's something people need to take away from this. Is everyone keeps trying to judge this, 7-hour event that we had on, what was it, Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday? Yeah. Thursday. No, Friday.
Friday.
And being like, this is the game. Like, you guys are acting, or I say you guys, there are people acting like this was the best of the best playing. And although, yes, it had very highly skilled players, but it's like they weren't experimenting with different angles or things. Like, a lot of times, like, people would ask Summit, and Summit was like, oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can shoot people with arrows. I don't know if you can shoot the arrow, or, just those little things that you don't know right away. And because, like, as you're playing, you're not thinking, let me try shooting this arrow. No, you're thinking, shit, there's an arrow. I'm going to go hide, or I'm going to shoot the guy in the head who shot the arrow. So, also, it's like, you also had guys on here like, is it Pokimane? And it's like, no offense to her. I'm not going to her to know the ins and outs of the newest esport out there. Not gonna like I don't think she's gonna be the good ruler as far as how competitive this game can be.
She's very entertaining, but she's there for entertainment purposes, not
Yes.
for playing the game at a incredibly high competitive level. I mean, she might have the ability to do so, but FPS is not her forte. She's like a league player for the most part, and does all that type stuff. And so, yeah, depending on who you're watching, you probably also got a little bit of a different experience or thoughts on the game. But from what I saw, it just didn't seem like the abilities were really outrageously overpowered. Yes, some of the ultimates I thought were highly useful and could be very strong, but then I think about how often they're used, and it didn't bother me. And I know that was just one of the biggest things that we heard throughout this whole thing was, oh man, all these abilities look really, really strong. Again, some of them are, and I'm sure they'll be tweaked, but for the most part, I came out of there thinking like, yeah, it's really utility. Like it's a lot
So,
of utility.
and to branch off of yours, one of my goods were the abilities, for the most part, affect both teams. So I don't know any of the players' name, so just know that right now, and it will probably be like 4 years into the game before I know their names. The ice chick, the fact that her little
He's
ice
talking about Sage. Just so you
sage,
know.
the floor, the ice floor.
Yeah, the slowing orb.
Yeah, well, not the orb, the floor.
Yeah, it's called the slowing orb. It's a thing she throws on the ground and it creates like a big
Yeah.
AoE on the ground.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
The fact that that affects both teams, is a game changer from my opinion going into it. Right.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "This is going to be stupid as hell," but the fact that it blocks both teams, you got to think. So this is the way my brain is working now, because I was always a big hater on the abilities, and I still don't love all of them. But just think when people are like, "Okay, this is stupid," right? Well, just think of it as what's the equivalent in Counter-Strike, okay? So obviously that floor ability or they're like mollies, right? And a molly will burn you, a teammate, an enemy, right? It doesn't matter. So just think of it that way, and it's not as weird, I guess, for the people who are trying to be like, wow, this isn't, I don't like this fire ability that shoots fire on the floor. Yo, don't be a douche. That's a molly.
Yeah.
Like it's a Molotov. It's the same exact thing. It's just not a grenade. He shoots a fireball out of his hands. But it's the same thing. You get what I'm saying? Like it's the same.
No, for sure. It is. Like all the abilities are utility. It's just now there are different forms of it and how they're
Right.
used. Like some of them
But like the flash,
obviously-
right? That's a flash.
yeah. The Phoenix, he has that little flashbang and it blinds your screen. Something cool that I learned about that, and this is another good, was the visual markers in the game. And I'll tell you what I mean when I say that. For example, Phoenix has a flash ability where he can throw a flash around a corner and it blinds you or enemy, hopefully the enemy. But it's a visual cue to know, in Counter-Strike, we're going to reference Counter-Strike a lot, guys, okay? It's what we grew up playing, so forgive us if we reference that game most of the time. In Counter-Strike, the way you know if you've flashed the opposing team is generally their arm goes up in the air and kind of covers their face, and you have an indication marker that, hey, I flashed this person. Same thing here. The eyes are like bright white when you see the player, to let you know that you flashed them, and it is quite noticeable. Like their eyes are completely opened up and it's like a white light that kind of covers their eye to let you know that, hey, this person is flashed. Another visual indicator that caught my eye was how which walls you're able to penetrate. So, for example, when you're hitting a wall, it makes a certain type of hit marker indicator on the wall to let you know, hey, you are wall banging this spot right here. Your bullet's physically going through right here and hitting whatever's on the other side. Now, depending on the weapon, that'll determine how much damage in which walls you can wall bang. But there's a proper visual indicator to let you know. And if it wasn't penetrating the wall, it looked completely different. And to me, that's like such a small thing, but what a useful feature for a game where wall banging is a lot more prevalent than I thought it would be. Like I saw it so much on different VODs of the types of walls you can basically shoot through anything in this game. If you have like an op or a LMG, for example, they pretty much go through any wall. So to me, another good was just the visual indicators in the game. I thought they did a really good job of showing that off, including like the pinging system on the map and the way, not the pinging system, but the way markers show up on the map for damage. Like all of the visual cues to me were spot on and really well thought out. So I really like that aspect of it.
I thought one thing that was really nice watching is that it was easy to watch, and it wasn't like I was watching a game I haven't played or haven't seen before, but I wasn't like relearning everything. Like, you watch Overwatch and you're like, what the hell is going on? You go and watch League of Legends or Dota, you're like, I do not know what's happening right now. But you watch this and you're like, okay, I got the idea of it, right? I don't know what every ability does or what every person does, but I get the gist, right?
Yeah.
I get the gist. So I did like that. I think that had a lot to do with map design. Now, of course, they've pulled people from the Counter-Strike world to design the maps. You definitely got that vibe. Like,
it was very simple
hardcore.
looking, right? Like it wasn't cluttered. It just looked very built for esports. It's
Yeah.
just the vibe I got throughout the whole thing, right? From and actually I'll say that part for another piece of this, but the game looked very built for esports.
Yeah.
And that's the takeaway that I got from this is like, man, they're really like, this is where the focus is.
Because even the
It's not a
gunplay, I
casual.
thought the gunplay was very clean. I thought it looked satisfying to shoot the guns and get the headshot. First off, it almost seems though like everyone can get headshots. I don't know what the hitboxes look like, but it seems like the pistols, and it just seems like headshots are
A lot of deagle headshots or whatever that gun's called.
Well,
You
yeah, I don't
could
know
see
what
a
it
lot of
was,
those.
but
Again, part of that is we were also watching like really talented FPS players, so that could be
yeah.
part of that also. I do have another good I want to get out there because I don't know when we're leaving the good and going to
I
the
pretty much
bad
have
or the
one
ugly.
more, so
But this is one that I'd be surprised if it's not your next one, honestly, because we talk about it in every game that comes out, is the fact that there's going to be a ranking system early on in the release of this game. We talk about it with every game that comes out, notoriously towards Call of Duty. We bitch about it in Counter-Strike because it's not a season-based game and it's just this one terrible, god-awful matchmaking system. Counter-Strike, for the game that it is, has the worst matchmaking system I've ever seen. It is really that bad. For those of you that don't play it, it's a system where it's from day one, it's the same. They've done rank drop downs or nerfs or whatever, but it's basically been the
even that
same
was
system.
3 years ago.
Yeah, it's been the same system pretty much from day one. And it doesn't fairly evaluate, I think. Just if you've gone away from the game and you come back, you're screwed. Let's put it that way. Tim and I are running into that issue right now. And so for them to have a ranking system so cleanly laid out, Tim and I were looking over the ranks the other day, and it's just like there's like 6 or 7 different levels of ranks within that. There's 3 ranks, for those even. So it's just a really detailed system. I'm very excited for that. I'm hoping there's a way to differentiate like 5-man queues versus solo queues or 2-man stacks. They said they are looking into that. That's not been confirmed that will happen. However, their AI system also understands if you're solo queuing and 5-man queuing. But yeah, to have a game where I can jump in and start working towards a rank, it's been a long time. Like if you're not playing League of Legends right now or Dota or something right now, you probably are not experiencing this either. So
Right.
for me, that is huge. That's just such a big win to have that early. It's half the reason why I'm excited, to be honest.
Yeah, and my actual last good, which was not that, but though that I am, like we said, I'm just super excited to start a new game that I know everyone will be playing in private servers, because I'm a big private guy. Like if I could play private ran servers, I would do those anytime over matchmaking, just because I don't know, I have more fun doing it. But it's the fact their banding system. Now this is controversial, but I'm gonna throw it in my good, because the word on the street is that they're going to put a file on your computer, and then like that's how they figure out if you have hacks on your computer or whatnot. Now I do know this probably will leave room for error, which will probably, like God forbid I have some file in my computer that they flag as hacking. But how many games, Nooch, have we seen die off or become miserable to play with because of hackers? I mean,
you're about to see it with Call of Duty right now.
Call of Duty is rounding that corner because I can't get into a war zone where I'm at least not questioning if someone's hacking. I mean, we saw a video with Tim the Tap Man, Nade Shot, and Courage, where they were watching a dude who killed them get 47 kills, hacking the whole time through. Well, those between the three of those guys, there's probably, we talked about, like millions of people have seen that video. Probably 100-something thousand were watching it live. You got to think someone from EA, or not EA, Activision is watching it. Nothing happens. Still hackers all the time, right? Even in Counter-Strike, yes, Counter-Strike is a lot better than what it used to be. A lot better since they've changed their system. But even then, for a while, it was almost impossible to play.
Still not great. Still not great. You know,
still not great.
Depending on the rank that you're in, it's terrible actually right now for Counter-Strike.
So if Riot is saying, hey, we are doing this because we're taking that situation very serious, then I'm all for it. Like,
we're talking about hardware bans, Tim. That's not like you'd have to literally go buy a new rig if you get banned in this game. There is no creating a second account and getting around it. There'll be some people that can figure it out, but majority of people will have to literally make a new rig in order to get around that. And that's huge, just to deter people from doing it. And so again, that along with their fog of war system, which communicates with the servers and really does not allow wall hacks if it works as intended. Yeah, you're right. That's a huge win for the competitive scene. I mean, I put that right up there with the ranking system in terms of combined. That could make one of the best experiences we've had in gaming in a long time, right? Like an ultimate matchmaking system followed up by where I really believe nobody is cheating. That's huge. That's everything in a competitive game.
Yep. You know what? I'll save this one here because I think it might be in your bad. So, I'll say it real. I personally, I liked the graphic style, but I know it wasn't everyone's cup of tea apparently. So we'll discuss that here in a little bit. But moving on to the bad, are you good with goods? Have you gotten all your goods out?
Yeah. Do you have a big list between bad and ugly?
So there might be more just that come up in conversation. But on my list of bad, I have 1. And on my list of ugly, I have 1. So
I have 1 in the bad. Okay. I had a tough time thinking of 1 for the ugly right now.
Like, I was trying to see it without, like, I did it like a couple days, like I did it last night. So it's like the hype was kind of died down, you know? I want to give it a fair thought. But in my bad, I put what felt like lots of vision impairing abilities. And now I know this is where I need to actually play the game or need to watch it played at a high competitive level because I know you buy the abilities. So you're not always like an alt. It's not like Overwatch. You're not always going to have an alt. You're not always going to have these abilities, right? Much like, again, looking at Counter-Strike, you get 1 smoke. You get 2 flashbangs, right? Yeah. You're not always going to have these just to constantly throw out in a fight. So I have to tell my brain, because when I'm watching this, it's weird. My brain tells me it's like Counter-Strike, but the abilities are played like Overwatch, and that's not the case. They're not on cooldowns for the most part. But I did feel like there was a lot of vision impairing abilities, whether that be a flash or an ice wall or a smoke wall or gas. Just there was something.
I'll tell you where I can kind of see where you're coming from. But I'm going to try and help you out here to also see if I can get you to maybe think along the same lines that I am, at least on this. I do agree. There are a lot of vision impairing effects with different types of
and I'll say, because you're going to convince me here in a second. Let me just say one last thing on this one. Is the reason I don't like that is because in my brain, I think of rotations, right? I'm thinking if I'm on B site and I need to rotate to A, if all of a sudden this poison bitch throws down her smoke wall that goes over buildings and through walls, and all of a sudden I have 2 lanes to pick from and both of them are smoked off, and I'm like, great, so I just run through this thing and hopefully I don't get popped. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. Like, I think where I have a little bit of a different feel on this is there are a lot of different types of smokes, which makes it looks like a lot is happening, because you see a purple smoke, then you see this like gray one, and then there's like this green one, and then somebody has a blue one. but it's still everybody kind of having one usable smoke. It's just they're all like different
Yeah.
colored, so it might look like a lot is going on, but think of it in a Counter-Strike match. If you're watching Nuke and a team is pushing outside, they do the smoke wall and line up 3 or 4 smokes in a row to kind of get behind it. It's kind of the same concept. The difference is like each smoke is going to almost be a different color to make a play like that happen, or you use a player like Brimstone who can drop 3 smokes at once.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of different vision impairing effects. However, it's like it's almost limited to like 1 per character for the most part.
And like I said, that's where I want to see it or play to see, okay, how effective are the smokes?
And like one thing I noticed with a character like Jet, for example, Jet has a smoke ability that you can kind of whirl around and throw in different parts of the map, and depending on how you move your mouse, you can actually get it to like curve in midair. That particular ability seems to last less than like 5 or 6 seconds. You know, when a traditional smoke in Counter-Strike about 13 seconds or so. So a lot more useful in that situation. Some of these smokes are there for like a really short period of time, and I would say between like 5 to 7 seconds. So maybe if there is a little bit more, not the worst thing, because the durations are very short on a lot of these abilities. And that's maybe where some of my bad comes in. It's just sometimes it looks like a lot is happening. I don't know how that will feel when I'm playing it, because again, there are so many different colors of types of abilities. It's more like the fact that I just see a lot visually happening. And that's my biggest issue with watching Overwatch is right now you have people like holding up a shield and everybody's shooting this shield to get the shields down, and then they're kind of like lining up, and there's just this ball of shit happening until everybody gets an ultimate, and then it's 2 cats fighting all of a sudden, you know? And that's my biggest issue with Overwatch is I watch the game. I've played enough Overwatch to like know all the characters and their abilities. I still confuse this shit when I watch Overwatch. Like it's really the truth. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't watch a lot of Pro League for Overwatch. I don't mind playing the game. I just don't really enjoy watching it for that reason. I'm a fearful that if there's like all of, you know, in a round where ultimates are up and abilities are up, it can probably will be a little confusing to see some of that until casters also understand how to build that up throughout the, you know, navigating the round, the story within the round, and how it's all setting up. That could be a little confusing early on. And so curious to see how that is, how that feels as I'm playing. Once I understand the game more, does it still look as much of a cluster as it can be right now? I think that's one of those things. Once we get playing, we understand all the abilities. My mind might take that from a bad, which I don't even, you know, I hate to use the word bad, but it might lean more towards like, hey, this is actually okay. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. But that's my biggest issue with Overwatch. You know, I would be fearful that if there's rounds where it's just chaotic and Viper throws up her poison cloud and then there's walls up, like
and then
it
an
can be
airstrike coming in, and it's
yeah,
like,
then there's a, you know,
what is
Brimstone's
going
throwing
on?
an airstrike through the ground. Like it can be a lot happening visually, and that's one of the beauties of Counter-Strike is the simplicity of watching the game, whether it's a flashbang, a Molotov, it doesn't distract from what's happening within the game. That may or may not happen here. We'll have to see. So I'm going to lean on that as a bad for now. But again, I feel like my mind can be changed on that pretty easily.
And I'll throw this in the bad only because I think it can spark a discussion. And I think maybe it is a bad in the sense of in our sample size, which is not large, but like our like group of 3 or 4 friends that we typically play with, we're trying to get them hyped up for this game, Anuj. We are really trying to talk this game up pretty big. And even me, who I needed a little pushing, right? Like when I first saw stuff, I was like, if this wasn't Riot, I don't know.
Tim was still calling this Valiant up until like Friday at 11, like an hour before the
game's name until a week ago. So we're really trying to get our friends involved on this. They watched the event on Friday, and they're still not all excited for it.
For my side of my friends, and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about when I talk about this part of it, is just the the visual appeal is not really there. When I say that, I'm talking about the actual graphics. Like the gameplay looks great, right?
Yeah.
The graphics themselves have been lowered to fit all types of PCs. When you look at the recommended settings for this game, if your computer cannot run on the lowest recommended settings, like you're truly on a potato, right? Like you are on a HP from 20 years ago almost at this point. Like it really is meant to work on everybody's PC. And it's funny because what do we do when we get into a new game, Tim? We lower all the
Crank
settings
that
down
bitch
and
down.
crank them down all the way to give us a high FPS and make the gameplay more smooth. They've kind of given that to us up front. However, what that has done to some of my friends and their view of the game is that they just see it for what it is, right? They're not these esports gurus. There's just guys who like to play video games, whether it's FPS or whatever. You look at the game and visually it's okay. You know, it's not what I would be bragging about if I'm selling a friend on this. I'm not gonna be like, dude, you
Check
gotta
out the
play
graphics,
Valorant.
bro.
It looks awesome. It's gonna blow your mind. Like it's the most gorgeous looking maps and the
Right.
world looks great. Like that's not the case here. That's not how this game was built. So that can fall into the bad, although I understand why they were doing it. But it's not an overly visually appealing game. And
I think what you need to look at is it's the style that I like too, though. Yeah, the graphics are, but you know, I'm gonna crank my bitch down. I'm gonna crank that down to the lowest it could possibly. That's just how I play my FPS games. I crank it down to low. I try to max out the FPS, and then I play. I don't care. I'm not a graphics snob. I play on a 980. Okay, you gotta play with the cards you're dealt with, so I crank it all the way down. But I do like the style of graphics still. That it's kind of like a TF2. It's not cell shaded. I really don't know what it is. It's almost like pastel. I don't know what kind of, I don't know what to call it.
little Paladins-y looking, right? Just not as bright. Like Paladins,
Yeah.
I felt like was really bright and vibrant in color. And granted, I watched a lot of Summit stream, and God help the guy, like whatever video quality he was using, it really muted
But
the
see,
colors on his
and
stream.
that's how I play though, because you could tell he turned his brightness up and it was all washed out. Like that's how I
Completely,
play.
yeah.
My
But then I
games
went and
look
watched
like
like
crap.
Ace's stream, and the colors were a lot more vibrant and pop. So maybe depending on how you set it up, um, that'll change. And again, this is nitpicky. Like if this is
Yeah,
what
it
I'm
is.
complaining
It
about,
is.
I can live with this being in the bad. If everything
I
else
tell
is
him,
spot
it's
on.
like I said, it's like, so are you telling me Counter-Strike is some graphically revolutionary game? Like, if graphics are your thing, go play single player then. I don't know what to tell you. This is supposed to be a competitive shooter. It looks good. It looks fine. I don't know. Like I feel like the people who are bitching about the graphics are the ones who are just looking at something to say this game sucks before even playing it. Now, I will be the first to say it sucks if it sucks. But I'm not saying it sucks because of the graphics. I don't care. I think it looks fine. The animation looked goofy. I will say that. Like when people were jumping around, there was like no jumping animation. That looked
Yeah,
weird.
and and now that I'm talking about it, I could probably add another one into the bad. Is like the movement speed felt a little slow watching it. I'm used to the Counter Strike kind of a little bit. You can air burst, you can gain a little bit more speed in Counter Strike. This felt like it was moving a little bit slow, and I heard that from people too. That hey, the game plays slower than Counter Strike in terms of movement. So that's how it was designed to be, obviously, and I think that's the consensus across the board that it's a little bit slower. Again, I don't know how bad that's going to be once I'm playing it, but the movement looked a little bit slow. You gain a minimal, like I think this Volcano is one that came out and said he's one of the developers. Um, that's like a 10% increase in movement speed if you're able to bunny hop. So at least there's still an advantage to having good movement, but it's not drastic. Like in Counter Strike, if you can bunny hop really well, which all the
Dear
pros can,
God.
there's a distinguishable difference in how they move and play the game versus how like a normal person would jump in and play. So um, I think movement in games is huge, and it attracts a whole different set of people when that's something that you can master. Um, so we'll see how that is, and it kind of leads me into my ugly, Tim, if we want to
Yeah,
go there
go
with
for it.
it. Is when we talk about just coming from movement is one of the things that I love about Counter Strike, although I don't do it that often. I like watching people do it. Is custom maps, custom maps and custom game modes that are created by the community. Um, you know, my routine in Counter-Strike, if I'm warming up, is I'll load up a aimbots type thing, and it's made by somebody in the community that you can go out there and play and do it however you want it. They did say they're not going to have custom maps available for people to creators. There's no map creator tools that you can go out and do. No server list, no community created maps. At least at this moment in time, which that kind of stinks because I feel like people have a lot of fun with that stuff, and you really get some great things out of it, right? Like it's not like everyone that makes maps can be good, but sometimes there's a lot of things that other people think of.
Yeah.
Just like with metas, people find a way to make a meta even if there isn't one. Not having that kind of stinks. I'll put that a little bit in the ugly because I almost feel like we'll never have that. I feel like this was where it'll be like Overwatch, where they
Overwatch though has
Overwatch.
They have
who is it? Who doesn't have community maps?
Well, okay, so Overwatch does not have community maps, but they have community servers where you can go in and fully goof around with. I mean, it doesn't matter that no one cares because the maps are fun, it's like goofy little games that people make and stuff. So Overwatch has actually opened up a lot of that, and people have said it's even taught them coding because you can get really advanced with Overwatches. So a lot of people like Overwatches, but that was a game that no one thought they would have anything like that, right? And now they do. So,
and so does it look like Riot will implement that anytime soon, if at all, right? So it's all going to be just they will dictate how the content is.
Riot not giving people control? What?
Well, they also said there's not going to be initially API available for third-party websites. It's not for closed beta. Hopefully it'll be there for launch, and they said they'll have it. So I'm assuming by the time ranked is up, you'll do it. But it'll be interesting to see which group comes in and makes the HLTV for Valorant, right? Like we just saw HLTV go for what, $30 million roughly,
something like that.
So I'm hoping that gets added quickly, but not having any custom game modes or maps or the ability to do that, kind of a bummer. I'm only throwing it in the ugly because I don't think we'll ever have it with this game.
Yeah. My ugly goes, again, kind of towards the gameplay and when I think of competitive. And what I like, and again, I'm comparing it to Counter-Strike because it's just what it's designed after as far as the rounds and everything, is late in the game, bombs down, you're holding the site. From a viewer standpoint and even from a player standpoint, half the excitement is that anticipation. Which way are they coming down, right? Are they coming... If you have the bomb down on B in Inferno, are they coming by Banana or CT, Construction, right? Where are these guys coming from? Well, my issue is I feel like there will be more times than not that anticipation is going to get halted a little bit too much in Valorant because of if you hold on to the abilities, like I said, with the smoke screens, or I think there are a lot of X-ray abilities like the arrow. Now I know, kind of loosened up a little bit because it is a line of sight thing, but still it's there. Then you have the camera guy, right? Who can mark and tag people. Then his ultimate, if he kills someone and then uses it on their corpse, it tells you where everyone else is on the other team. You have the one dude, what's his name? Siege. No. Breach. Yeah, Breach, who can use pretty much all of his stuff shoots through walls, right? Like a flash, things like that. So if you think they're coming down a choke, you can do it. I don't like all of that, right? I feel like there are just a lot of things out there that can reveal your position before you ever actually see them. And in certain situations where in Counter-Strike is the most hyped, anticipated moment of the match, imagine you're running to the site, you're going for the 2v1 clutch, all of a sudden that arrow smack stab right in front of you. They know where you're at. It's too late to rotate at this point. You're just going to have to go for the outgunning play, which is not going to happen.
I see why it's in your ugly. I wouldn't put it there yet just because, again, I want to see how that is. If you're not using that stuff to take the site, I think in a high-level competitive match, it's unlikely that you have that stuff available to you at the end of the round. Yeah. It would be the defensive team that maybe has kept some of their abilities for the retake. But I think in order to gain access to a site, unless it's one of those 3-bomb site maps, that might
Right.
be a whole
Because like
different
even
challenge.
who's it? Sova with the no, that's the Cypher. Cypher has like the traps. Oh, that's the guy with the hat, right?
Yeah, he's got so Cypher is like your all-around kind of hacker type guy. He's got the
Yeah.
trap wire that throws out like a trip wire basically is what it is.
So that's
You know,
I just think the rotations or the taking over a site, and again, you are absolutely right. When we play, this might not be an issue at all. But just
well, the
from
ability
what
with
I've seen-
Cypher is like an ultimate, right? So again, if that's something that's happening 2 rounds a game, and again, you have to use it for it to start recharging, right? So it's not like the round you get it like in Overwatch. The moment you guys, everyone gets their ultimates, you go in and use it right away. You might build up that ultimate, but not use it for like 3, 4, or 5 rounds until a moment comes where you need it. But by then, it's too hard to build it, maybe back up again to even use it a second time in a game. So I just want to see how it's used, how often they're used, and then I think some of that is also meant to just be the way the game is played, right? To put a little bit of a different spin on it, so it's not exactly like Counter Strike. But I can see how it can be concerning, at least like, oh man, like how much of this are we going to see? Like you said, are teams able to take sites easily to where they don't need to use a lot of their utility to get in? Unlikely, but if that's the case, yeah, this could be a big issue. But if you're having to dump a ton of utility out there to get onto a site, might not be as bad as we think, because you're not going to have that for stopping a retake or seeing the enemy's position often.
It's not an ugly, but I did make a note that Sage's ice floor is probably going to make me break my mouse.
Because it reminds you of May so much,
well,
or why?
She just reminds me of May, but yes. Like, I'm going to get stuck in a tunnel. That thing's going to come whipping around the corner or something, and then all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to move and just get destroyed.
There's some cool things. You talk about her slow orb. I'm going to go back to what I'm excited about, because this is too much bad for me. There's way more good that I'm excited about, is how the pairings work with some of the characters, right? As people figure out which characters really go well together. Like, for example, if you throw Sage a slow orb down, but then you have a Brimstone on your team and he does his orbital strike, so you can slow him and then hit him with the strike at the same time, there's no chance that they survive that, right? Or using Sova's ultimate, which is like an arrow that kind of shoots through walls, and if you hit somebody with it, it pings them for you, and you can hit them again to do more damage to them. Comboing some of these abilities.
You know who's I'm most looking forward is Breach. His ultimate, which sends a shockwave, it doesn't do any damage, but it boosts people up. It throws them in the air.
Yeah.
I could see, like, if someone's hiding behind a box, you use that, they throw up in the air, and then a teammate pops them. I think that will be for some exciting gameplay. I put some other notes here just for characters. Brimstone, I think, is going to be your Soldier 76 of the game. Just straightforward. If you play FPS and you don't want to worry about the magic crap, Brimstone's going to be your guy.
It's interesting to see where they become, like, where we look at Counter-Strike from an entry fragger to a second fragger to a lurker, to a support style player. It's going to be interesting to see where these characters kind of fit in, because like Brimstone,
I feel like he's going to have to be a must pick, is Brimstone.
Yeah, like his mollies, the way his mollies work, or not mollies, the way his smokes work.
They're too powerful to not have.
Yeah, you have to buy this, or you don't have to buy this ability, but he basically gets 3 smoke grenades where he can pull up the map on his little, wrist or whatever. But he pulls up his map and he can drop 3 smokes or 1 smoke at a time wherever he wants on the map. And so he's able to do that from anywhere. And you want to talk about like setups, like that is a really unique way to be able to do it. I think the same thing with kind of what's her name, Viper. Viper has this wall that she can create. It's like a green poison wall barrier type thing, but she can throw that over buildings, and so you can do these crazy setups. And we'll see a lot of this. Like, it's just we've seen none of it right now because it's just
the guys who played it didn't have that much time to test, like, to theory craft, right?
Yeah.
So they were really just playing as raw shooters and figuring things out as they went, right? We did see some cool things afterwards when they had time to like practice smokes and mollies and things like that. But for the most part, like, what you saw on Friday was the most basic version, I think. I think it's going to... Now, Viper, that ultimate will be nerfed by the time the game comes out.
I hope they change the way it looks. It takes up a lot of real estate. A lot of real estate on that one.
They thought that was just going to be like a, oh yeah, this seems good, right? Like, her ultimate pretty much covers an entire site with smoke. And in that, as long as she's staying in it, it never goes away. And she can see her enemies in it with a red outline.
And you know what? Maybe they don't change it. Again, this is all going to be dependent on one of those things of how often are ultimates happening, right? If people are able to accumulate them like 5, 6, 7 times a game, that's going to be a big issue. Will it take a simple like performance in order to get it a handful of times? Okay, maybe it's deserving, right? But yeah, I think a lot of that is kind of going back to where you said the visual, like there's too much, a little bit too much. And that's one of those moves that looks like it could be like too much, too overpowering to look at. I think even Viper has like a gas tank basically where most of her moves,
her ult though, if she's in her ult,
that's the one outlier, right? Is the ultimate.
So
and the ultimates seem to be outliers. They should be. They're ultimates.
Yeah.
We'll see how that kind of works. But overall, Tim, like I just got to say, like we've watched about 5-6 hours on that Friday, along with now all the YouTube content that we've watched. I haven't been this hyped in a long time about a game.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
It is a solid looking game. It looks like, especially like how we've just been conditioned for new games, right? We have been conditioned as players to accept early access crap that isn't finished, doesn't have all the features you want, all this crap. Like I said, it's still going to piss me off because there's 9 heroes to start. If all of a sudden they release...
they've confirmed 10 now.
Okay, so they've confirmed 10.
For launch.
For launch? Okay. It's still going to piss me off if like all of a sudden like, whatever. 10 is a good number. I think it was before rumored to be even less, so
yeah,
maybe I can live with 10. But it looks like a thought out game. I don't see anything like crazy. Like I said, most of my uglies and bads were at the end gonna have to wait and see, but right now this is my first impression. Looking forward though, we did have some of the devs speak with Dr. Lupo in an interview, just kind of going over what their future landscape is. If we don't got to go through all of the notes, but if you want to touch on some of them, Anuj.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of them is it looks like it's only going to be a closed beta, probably not going to be an open beta there. So hopefully they allow a ton of people in throughout this process so everybody gets a chance to kind of play it. It's still expected to launch summer 2020, even with all the COVID stuff going on. It's not going to delay their launch date. Another big one was 4 maps at launch. I think the streamers only got to play 2 of them. So, there's still 2 more maps out there that we haven't got a chance to look at. And no map votes. So, like, you're going to play with what they have. I think that'll be the case until they just add more, right? Like, you don't want to have to worry about vetoes when there's just 4 maps.
Vote. My God. Remember Go before they had map votes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like it's 2 every single time.
At least this way we'll... it's going to be new, so it's not going to matter in that case. But yeah, I think over time, you'll see that. I think another big thing here is we found out like there's no controller assist, and that's always been such a big talking point. Hey, how do we handle like aim assist in games? We don't have to worry about that. There's very limited controller support. You can play with the controller, but you're going to suck if you do that. So just know if you're using a controller, you're probably not going to have...
Welcome to the Thunderdome, all right?
Yeah.
All of those listeners who play COD with us, and they're like, well, I thought you guys were supposed to be pretty good, killing people with mouse and keyboard. No. Your aim assist is killing people with mouse and keyboards, okay? The fact that you can like start tracking me before I turn the corner is killing me. Okay, not you.
I think another big one, Tim, was no loot boxes. And for a free-to-play game, you would think that is going to be a huge way to monetize. Like you're going to be able to go in and buy the skins that you want. I know this is not something that maybe a lot of our listeners don't care to hear about, but I think that's really
I will spend more money on skins that I want directly than I ever will on loot boxes.
No, I think that's really cool that you can just buy what you want, right? Like no loot boxes, you don't have to pray. I think they could have done loot boxes and got away with it fine and probably made more money. But this way you can go in and get what you're looking for when you want it. There is no spectator or replay system at launch, at least right now. I'm sure we'll get that soon. And then really from there, we've kind of covered a majority of what I think the people would want to know about. Like there's some small things in there. This one I thought was actually pretty interesting, the quitting teammates thing. So if a player gets banned mid-match or quits mid-match, they're testing features in the closed beta that if it's a cheater, your game ends and nobody takes a penalty. If a person quits mid-match, they're looking at ways to either distribute the fallen player's money or looking into lever penalties. So they're doing things that are going to hopefully combat a lot of the issues that we tend to see in Counter-Strike, things that we complain about in MM. The last thing I want is to jump into an hour match and somebody quits 5 rounds in and they're like, okay, I'm stuck. Like I got to finish out this game and hopefully they steamroll us so we can move on. But that's always a big issue. You'll have a reconnectability if you disconnect. That's also nice. It seems basic, but not all games do that. Overall, Tim, it looks very CS-like. I think they were very clear when they said that a lot of the people's backgrounds that created this game come from CS, so it's no surprise a lot of inspiration came from that game.
Yeah.
But it's different enough to where I think also like something that I've just seen on Twitter so much that bothers the shit out of me is both of these games can coexist and do very well. You don't have to be. It's like Counter-Strike and Overwatch, man. Like the two communities in my mind can't stand each other. All they want to do is Counter-Strike wants to bash Overwatch and see it fail, and that's at least what I get from the talking heads. So I'm assuming majority of the fan base feels that way because they listen to these guys, and there's just so much hatred between like the player base or fan base between one and the other. I think we're going to see that here, unfortunately, and we're already seeing it because everyone wants to compare it to Counter-Strike. So, Counter-Strike folks are holding on closely to this game that they don't want anything to happen to. They could both do really well. They can both have 1 million people watching. They can both be wildly successful esports and not kill each other.
You can be a fan of both. You don't have to pick one or the other. That's the beauty of not being a pro. Like you can play both, you can watch both, you don't have to commit. There's a reason we talk about multiple esports on this show, because we are a fan of more than one.
No, 100%. Yeah, like I mean, you'll see a lot of this chatter going on. I would just tell you guys, don't get sucked into that. Like, just enjoy it for what it is. If it's a good game, it's a good game. Have fun, play it. You want to play Counter-Strike again, go back and play Counter-Strike. You want to play both, play both. It's okay to like both games, though, and I think that's important to know. If you fall in love with Valorant, doesn't mean you gotta hate Counter-Strike all of a sudden. So I say that both ways. Like, just enjoy it for what it is. Let's all have fun with this. It's a game we're all gonna dive into. Some of us significantly sooner than others, but it's a game we're all gonna dive into and have fun with. And man, I can't wait to just get a chance to play with like Tim mentioned, like we're gonna have so many listeners playing this, and I'm so stoked to be able to get everybody online and just have different groups to play with. It's one of those games where I feel like all of my friends are going to jump in. All of hopefully my soon-to-be friends are going to jump in, and new friends to be made. So it's one of those things that's just exciting from a gaming perspective, because we've seen Tim and I have been gaming for 20-30 years now almost. Like you don't often enough see a game come out where everybody wants to get in and it has a hugely competitive aspect. Happens a lot with single player games, right? There's really big single player releases where all your Final Fantasy VII's coming out in just a few days. I have so many friends that are excited about it, but I can't enjoy that experience with them. It's rare to have a game come out where it feels like everybody is gravitating towards. Everybody's at least going to try it out. It's free to play. Nothing's stopping you from doing it. And so that's what I'm most excited about, is just to play a game with all of my friends.
Agreed. One other thing from the interview with Dr. Lupo that they mentioned is he asked I don't know what he exactly said, but it was loosely asking, future esports plans. And Riot said that, well, going into it, they don't want to assume it's going to be an esport. They want to focus on the multiplayer first, or just the actual game itself. And my eyes rolled so far in the back of my head, it hurt. I'm like,
I think theirs did too a little bit.
It's like,
you can see that it's like, okay, you built it for competitive esports.
Yeah,
like you built the game
like
for
the developer
that.
was like, yeah, we don't want to seem too cocky or arrogant and assume this is going to be a big esport.
They use the word
guys
organic.
Are Riot Games. You have the biggest esport in the world. You don't make a game and not expect it to be. When you design a game with 10 characters and 4 maps and the sole purpose of it is multiplayer, you want it to be a big esport.
Yeah, it will be. It will be a big esport. We'll see how successful it is over time. Like, success is a different thing from being a big esport. It will be a big esport. It's going to have a huge following. You're going to hear this from us here in E-News here in just a moment. The number of people that are going to be playing this or quitting, retiring, whatever from their current one to focus on this. But it's going to be a big esport. Will it be a good one? That's to be determined. But it's going to be a big one.
Yep. So let's get into said E-News, shall we? As in Counter-Strike, first Counter-Strike player to leave for Valorant. If you count, if you don't count
tier
Brax.
1 Counter-Strike player.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I
Valorant.
necessarily count Brax, but Sub Rosa announced that he is leaving Counter-Strike and joining the efforts to play Valorant. Sub Rosa, formerly Swole Patrol, Cloud9 for half a minute. He was on Ghost before that team broke up. I believe he played there with Steel at the same time.
Yeah, Steel, Wardell, I think those guys.
So, and I think he's
currently on Orglis.
Okay,
as
so
the team
he is on Orglis. Like, he is playing in the league.
Yeah, they're in Flashpoint, and I believe they also...
So was he serious when he said he was leaving?
Yeah, he is. He said they're not finding a team. Like, he goes, what's the point in playing a game? We're playing for free. Like, they're not getting paid by anybody.
How do they not have a org to buy them?
It's a little mind-blowing, is it not?
There's something going on there that I don't understand then.
No, it's definitely, like, interesting, but it's not overly surprising because he is also on the... Although his team has done well, I don't know where his career goes from this point. Like, they might get an org to come and pick them up, but I don't know if he sees like huge potential growth for himself in that game. He's been playing for a long time. It's not like he's new. Like, I think he kind of knows where he stands in the CS:GO scene, right? Like, mid to lower tier 1, but still great. You're a pro. You're playing at the highest level. You're playing against the best teams. But do you think you'll get to a point where you'll be one of the best, especially in NA? Like, who knows? Unlikely, probably at this point. So for him to move, like, a little surprising, but not that surprising. Because if he goes into this game and he does is wildly successful and does well, like, the money wise could be huge potentially for him, right? I think the salaries in this could be very high if you're a good player. So
also breaking news. So when he tweeted out, it was the 3rd, right? So on Friday, he tweets out officially going to give 100% shot to Valorant. He deleted that tweet and has now said thinking of quitting CS to go all in for Valorant. So
sure, we'll see.
Changed his tone a little bit. I think, again, that's just...
An org contacted Orglis just recently. He's like, oh, hold on. Let me see real quick.
Exactly. DreamHack Master Spring for Europe. Some of the teams have been announced there. Going to be quite stacked. Just to name a few, you have Astralis, Vitality, Mouse, G2, Complexity, Fnatic, FaZe, and others. That's to start May 19th, so we have a while before we have to worry about that. Surprising news out of Evil Geniuses camp, as I'm a Pet, their coach, is no longer with the roster. He's been with them for quite some time now, when they were with NRG.
Yep.
And I think...
And even Optic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and even before that,
Yeah.
for the majority of them with Optic.
I think he was even there during the Optic time. Yeah, it's unfortunate because he's a fantastic coach. He's
I wonder why. I mean, I guess just a.
oh, well, he said it in his twit long that he did. He has issues with Tarek for the most part. Like they don't see eye to eye. He thanked like Ethan, Cirque, and who was it? I forgot who else he was thanking. He thanked like 3 players on the team and left 2 of them off. And it was pretty clear that they have different visions and how they were trying to like counter strat and what they wanted to do. I think it's a big loss for EG. I really do, because that roster was fading a little bit, but I don't think it was because like a lack of like good coaching. I think it's just finding consistency through them. And Tarek hasn't been the most consistent player, you know, kind of since leaving Cloud9. Like he had a terrible run there with MIBR for a period of time. And now kind of finding his way on EG. But I think it's a big loss for them. Like I don't see him having any issues getting into another good coaching role. Like I really don't. So we wish him all the best. But yeah, that's a big loss. That's a big coaching change right now.
Mm-hmm. I could see him maybe making a Team Liquid move, maybe.
And like I wrote that out there in one of my tweets, you know, as soon as he left, as I go, I have a team in mind that he could go to, and Liquid was the team. Not a knock on Adren. Adren, I think, came into a team that was peaking at the time. Like Zeus had left, they had just made the move to bring on Adren, and that team kind of hit highs, but has really slumped ever since that Intel Grand Slam that they won. And Adren has even said it, I think, on some occasions, that he's more of like a talking head, he's motivator, like
back, right? Like I think Adren would be an awesome assistant locker room coach, right?
An analyst, even potentially on a team.
He's not going to sit there and yell on the sideline. He's not going to get there and get you fired up, but he'll take, you know, in the locker room, he'll you know, help out with film. He'll analyze stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we'll see.
I think Amapek could be a great addition to a team like that just needs to kind of find its way a little bit again.
Speculation here. In Overwatch, Sinatra tweeted out saying starting on the 7th. No, nothing happening that day, right? Nothing happening on the 7th. That he will start streaming 8 to 12 hours a day. Just convenient.
Okay.
Convenient.
Like, how, if you are a fan of Overwatch, a fan of San Francisco Shock, part owner of that team potentially, you got to be shitting your pants a little bit here with that announcement. I mean, just a little bit, because this is the star in the league, right? Like
and it's funny
guy in Overwatch.
When we talked to Mike, you know, we brought up, hey, what about some of these more damage DPS players, you know, because you see them making the move over, and Mike pretty much said like, no, yeah, there's definitely going to be big name people who move over to Valorant who play DPS in Overwatch League. I don't know if Sinatra's gonna be that one, just because like you said, that dude is the face of the league and could pretty much get anything he wants out of it. So I think it may be just more tongue-in-cheek on his part. Yeah. You never know.
But when your best player is going to be streaming a different game for 12 hours a day.
He just said on the 7th he was going to start streaming.
For 8 to 12 hours a day. Yeah, the day the game drops, he's going to pick up. Let me just be a full-time streamer.
What that really is, Anuj, is that's just going to be about 11 hours in the DPS queue and then 1 hour of actual gameplay. That's what he meant.
I would be sweating a little bit. Like just the thought of him focusing on that mid-season. Like it's not like they're out of season, right? They just had a game this past weekend. So it's like
they actually have a losing record, but
a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. The Boston Uprising decide to part ways with Mufin, their off-tank or flex tank, after investigations into sexual misconduct.
Didn't they have another issue on that team?
Oh, yeah, they did.
Not the same team?
Yeah, well, you're thinking of their owner, Robert Kraft.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're thinking of Dream Casper. That's right. It was year 1. Or was that year 2?
I think it was year 1.
Yeah,
I think it was first year.
He got busted for asking underage girls for nudies. and they sure know how to sign the type of player, because Mufin got in trouble for doing the same thing, allegedly. Anuj, allegedly.
At least not all Boston. This is not the year for Boston sports.
They
Tom Brady gone.
Like owner, like players, they like themselves some sexual misconduct. In League of Legends, it is now the LEC playoffs. G2 were upset in the first round of playoffs after dominating the group stage, so they were upset by Mad Lions. They're
Mad Lions making moves in both Counter-Strike and...
That is nuts. That is nuts. So they're obviously just in the losers bracket, so we'll still see what happens there. But poor G2, it doesn't matter what esport it is. They get shafted. They just... And it's not anyone to blame but their own. Like, you just got.
They're like very good in every esport. They just need to find a way to win big matches. They're like really good at every single esport. They just got to find a way to win the big one.
CDL, we said they ran some exhibition matches today, so hopefully here next week we see actual gameplay or actual league play. Battle Royale, we all saw a little bit more news of people jumping over to Valorant. D-Cop announced that he is leaving Apex for, again, the next chapter in his career. Doesn't say Valorant, doesn't say the words.
Timing is just good. That's
just
all
convenient.
It is. It's coincidental. Coincidental.
Palm leaving Fortnite to
See,
go
that's a big one, because
second place in the World Cup.
Yeah, Psalm was a very good Fortnite player. Tim's right, second place in the World Cup, so made a lot of money off of the game. Like, I think he's already, if you go look at the list of top esports earners of all time, like, he's cracked the top 20 or 30 just off of that one event alone. But for Fortnite pros, this is not a bad move, because Fortnite is not an esport. Like, it's still not an esport. They don't have a consistent way.
Yeah, you think I'm being just funny? You think I'm being a big jerk when I say Fortnite is not an esport? No.
They're like really not an esport. Like, so for a Fortnite pro to be leaving, not surprising. The other one with D-Coop, and we'll throw in Ace into this, like, both have announced their departure basically from Pro Apex. Pro Apex is in a very tough spot, because this was a big year for them to launch their pro league. Obviously, all of that got delayed or canceled now because of COVID. The game is in an unusual place because the hype has died down so much from where the hype was when the game first launched. A lot of that is because of how slowly, like, I feel like their dev team moves. Personally, I feel like they could have just added a lot more content and almost followed the Fortnite path once they were growing, to continuously change it up, mix it up, and maybe that would have been the approach. But those are two big names leaving the scene, and I feel like it's not the end for what we see for Apex, because an Apex pro should be able to do okay, in the sense of, you got to be a good aimer in Apex. You can't get away playing Apex and have shitty aim. Like, it's just not how the game is built. So I could see them transitioning nicely. Ace, former Counter-Strike pro, and now Apex, like, he's just a good FPSer, so he'll be very good at this game. And so I think this is just the start we see. People are announcing early.
Yeah,
this is early to announce.
Look at what they remember. Overwatch. They remember Overwatch being in closed beta and pro teams being signed. They remember that. It's dumb. It's idiotic. But you don't want to be the one org not signing players. So it's almost like drafting a kicker in the fantasy league, right?
Yeah.
It's all fun and games until, like, two teams draft a kicker and you're like, oh, damn, it's like the third round. I guess I need a kicker, right? So it's the same exact concept when it comes to signing these players, which is why I encourage orgs, if you're listening, Envy, Complexity, Cloud9, I know you guys listen to the podcast. Anuj and I are free agents. We are officially
negotiate.
We are available, and
not for long.
I can't speak for Anuj, but I will undercut anyone.
And look, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do, Tim. I'm gonna stream this when closed beta comes out, and I know a lot of you orgs are gonna be watching, and you're gonna watch me play, and you're gonna be like, "Oh shit! Like, let's get him a contract." I'm gonna be patient, guys. I'm not signing the first contract that comes my way. You can throw them to me. You can throw them to me from all different directions. Come in with your top dollar offer. Because what you see on the 7th is not going to be a joke. Like, I'm going all in, Tim. I told Tim this. Like, this is going to be the biggest boost we've had for the show, because not only are we going to be the #1 esports podcast, there's a chance we're on the #1 Valorant squad, doing both simultaneously.
And you can lowball me.
Yeah.
I also want to put it out there. I'm not reading any contracts. I'm signing contracts.
No, we don't read contracts. We found that out.
I am not consulting a lawyer. I am not negotiating. It's not my style. I'm a gamer. I'm here to game. Okay? I'm not here for the money. So you sign whatever you want, and I'll just tell me to sign. And I'm in. I'm in. So just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there. Valorant Pro. Put it in the Twitter profile. I'm a Valorant free agent. So it's just that's what all the pros do anyways. That's what all the pros do. Shout out, what's his name?
Who?
The first ever Valorant Diabolical Pro.
Do we need to say it? Lex?
Lex.
Good old Lex.
Lex
fan
in
of the
his Twitter
show, friend of the
profile,
show.
Diabolical and Valorant. Whoa.
2 unreleased games. That's impressive. It's hard to do.
Whoa. Legendary Battalion player Lex. You can now sign him. Get it while it's hot. Well, that's it for the show, everyone. Thank you again for listening. Check us out on Twitter at The Center Ring. Our website, tcr.gg's got all the other links to our YouTube, our Discord, everything there. Feel free to join. Thank you so much to Alt again for sponsoring the show. Check them out at Ultimate on Twitter and altesports.com. You can purchase our hoodie with them. It's the 101 Burglars, plural, hoodie. So you can find that on their website, altesports.com. We'll be back on Wednesday night. We will be discussing the latest drama between ESL and Flashpoint. But for Anuj, I'm Tim. I'll see you.